trust is that. So you learn to trust in the doctors for all your information. So anytime you get anything and they say it, you take it as truth.
And it's usually not until you have some kind of experience that will cause you to judge them. Mm-hmm. In a way that I thought that you knew what you were doing, and then you messed up the surgery, and I almost died. When you go through things like that, it causes you to second guess, and from that point on, like my life, that's a story of my life, which is in probably one of my episodes. But if not, I did do an interview with Seiko Varner and explained that another reason why I started doing wanting to do something like a podcast from that experience.
Yeah,
and
this when you talk about, and it's funny you were talking about deaths, like doctors and things that there's things that they don't actually put out for information because they will actually scare you a lot of times. But there's a word called, and it's hard for me to even pronounce it. It's
latrogenic.
I think it's I, but
that's I. That looks like latrogenic.
My pronunciation of words is bad, so I don't know what it. But when I first heard it, did
somebody say iatrogenic?
Yeah.
Disease is defined as a disease that is caused by medical treatment.
By medical treatment. That says that is the third most fatal disease in the U.S. You read that definition again?
Is iatrogenic.
Iatrogenic, that's the word.
Iatrogenic.
That's the word.
Okay.
Yep, that's the word.
So iatrogenic disease is defined as a disease that is caused by medical treatment.
Where you get medical treatment at?
Wow.
I mean, like, I don't make it up. I mean, like, whether you believe everything you read on Google or the internet, but that's information that's out there it's not showed in the paper. So,
So this disease is caused by medical treatment. So you're treating me. So are you causing more of a problem, or are you really giving me a solution?
The way I look at it, it's like when you go to a car dealership and your check engine light is on, and instead of fixing the problem, I just cut your light out and then let you go back out and out your way. So the problem's not fixed. You just covered it up. So that's what medical... because if there's something wrong with you...
they try to do with me for the longest time, Chris, is that they, tried to cover it up. But
if you don't know the symptoms there, then you think you're healed.
Again.
Right.
Yeah. And, I thought, okay, these doctors in these white jackets, they know what they're talking about. Because they went to college and... they have degrees. They know what they're talking about. They are diagnosing me right. No way. They surely did not. I ended up 3 days later back in the emergency room, Chris.
Oh my goodness.
3 days later. It was the first time he said, "Oh, that's just constipation. X-ray." I was like, "Oh, okay. Send me home, milk of magnesia." I won't mention what naval hospital this was at. I won't mention that.
Okay.
But, my distaste goes deep.
Yeah.
Just because... But there are good ones out there also.
Right.
I'm not going to even say that. And I've worked along some really good doctors and dentists. But I did experience that changed my outlook on the way I think about doctors and having that mentality, like you said, of you thinking that this person must know it all because he's a doctor.
And they get paid to practice medicine. I mean,
Practice.
The word is practice, right?
Yeah. And we have big practice
Mm-hmm.
hospitals.
And they have insurance companies that bag up their practice.
Mm-hmm.
So they're able to learn more, you know, so that's why you can't, you know, sue them directly. It's a lot. And
And how do you assign the same doctor who diagnosed you wrong? Then you're assigned that patient still to follow up, make sure. It was a very, very long ordeal, and I wonder if anybody else has gone through things like this. You know, feel free to comment in and let me know what you guys think of military medicine, residents, interns. You know, does everybody know the difference between a medical student? First it's med student, and then intern, and then residency, and then the staff provider. I wonder if everybody knows the difference as far as the level of training that each one gets before they actually get to practice on your body or prescribe you medication. At what level do you know? You just trust them because they have on a white jacket and they're telling you that they know they're diagnosing you.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
I have a problem with that now more so than ever. Because until we go through things like that, you know, you just don't know. You know, I think knowledge is power. Reading is something that we lack, and I know you're on something when you say that.
Yeah, we gotta learn to ask questions. That's all, and be able to look up the information.
That is so important.
Yeah,
and do we do that often? You know,
I think at some point we lose our ability to.
We all have gone through that phase to where you're just like, you don't look it up, or you know, you're growing up.
Yeah,
we don't look up things. We don't read.
Right. And
instead, we'd rather do it the easy way and be lazy.
I used to not look up, you know, anything. You know, I felt like it was a waste of time, or I just look it up to find a shortcut how to get past. You know, where even in doing research now, you know, you want to look up the root words and the meanings and what things come from, because you know, you can be led down the wrong path just looking up the information, because no matter what, somebody wrote the information that you're reading, or whether you watch it on a video or whatever you get the information from, somebody else either did the research. So you can read everything about brain surgery and think you know everything, but you haven't participated in a brain surgery. So how smart are you really? But you know everything based off of somebody else's experience. So everything we learn out of a book, no matter what I read, that's why you can never be the foremost. You can never be the authority on anything.
You know, Bible.
Right.
I think because that's been rewritten, I don't know how many times. But a lot of things, most things come out of a book. So unless you do your own research, I think that's very important, is do your research. Don't end up putting your whole life into somebody else's hands without knowing why you put them there, and knowing that who you're putting them into, you know, the medical background, and knowing that this person has had, ask questions. That's not one thing that I've learned in life, is that a closed mouth does not get fed. I know we have heard that saying, but if you don't ask, how will you know? That goes back to even being, I remember my daughter, my oldest, and she's working on her master's. Yeah. She was working on her master's. She's at NCCU, going into her second year, working on her master's degree. Tomorrow's her birthday. Shout out to my baby girl. My oldest, she's gonna be 23. She's making mama old.
We didn't hear that.
Yeah. Because I'm only 24. So, yeah, I'm still fine, Chris. I'm still fine.
Yeah. Nobody.
But yeah, ask questions, because if you don't, but like I said, my little girl, when she was like in the maybe 3rd grade, and this is before, because by the 4th grade she started getting straight A's, just straight A's. But in the 3rd grade, I can remember, I was like, she would start bringing home like B's and C's, and knowing my child, I said, I know you're capable of doing more than this. This is good, but I know you can do better. Well, Mom, and she said, well, Mom, I'm scared to raise my hand and ask when I don't understand the question. I'm scared. She told me then. I'm scared. I don't, because everybody's going to look at me, and I don't want to ask. I remember it back then, and I said, and I told her, I said, don't be afraid. That's what the teacher is getting paid to teach you. This is what she went to school for that. She's working at your school and teaching you. She's getting paid to teach you. So don't be afraid. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to ask a question that somebody else is afraid to ask. You're not the only one that doesn't know the answer. But it's okay not to know. That's why you're there. You're there to learn it. After that, this girl raised her hand, and so I think that's something that moral of that story is, teach your children while they're young. Instead, ask questions. Don't be afraid to speak up and speak out when there's something wrong.
Right.
Have you ever went through anything similar, Chris?
At a certain point, I'm more of a passive-aggressive type person, so I'll sit back and kind of observe something, allow it to happen until I have to speak out. That's more so kind of.
So is that your personality?
Yeah, that's probably more so. It's more of a passive-aggressive type. So I won't necessarily say anything unless it really bothers me right off the bat. Or with questions, it's still, where am I going to get off of the answer? Because like if I'm not going to trust the source, I'm saying if I'm not going to trust the source of the information, regardless of what answer you give me, I might not ask the question. Like, that's more so of how I've been. Right. So like if I'm not,
because if the trust is not there,
if it's not there, why am I going to ask you a question? So that's kind of more so. It depends on how I value the information from the person that I'm actually asking.
That's what I'm saying. That goes back to making sure that you asking the right question.
Because it don't matter what you answer it. Yeah, I'm not. If I'm not going to believe it, I'm going to be thinking it's going to be shady. There's no need in me asking the question. So.
Good point.
Yeah, so I know I probably went along.
But then you're just like, how would you know though? How do you know what you don't know?
Right. All right.
I mean, that's the scary thing, is that, but that's life. How do we know? How
do you know anything though? So it's like one of those things where you have to utilize more of your senses than just your eyes and your ears. Some of that intuition and gut feelings and so forth. Like, there's other senses that we need to be more in tune with when we're gathering information. And then not only that, we need to start looking the information and following it up and doing some research and not relying on somebody else. So a lot of times I find myself trying to rely on information from everybody else, the resources that I'm watching YouTube videos on and stuff. So instead of looking up and gathering some of that information, so I found myself, let me fact check some of this stuff. Let me Google it. Let me get a book, and go through some of this stuff, that you're looking for. Whatever you're looking for, don't trust it into nobody. lawyers, attorneys, any of that.